As a fan of professional sports, you've likely heard of the term, a change of scenery. It's typically used to describe a situation where a particular player is underperforming and a move to another team is believed to be what they may need to change their fortune. In some cases, a change of scenery unlocks nothing. In others, it helps a bit. In the case of Andrew Vaughn, it turned a guy who was virtually unplayable into a playoff hero and one of the toughest outs in baseball. In this video, I'm going to explore Andrew Vaughn's MLB journey thus far, the change that unlocked the best 3-month stretch of his career, what factors contributed to his success, and I'll even share a couple of other players that I personally believe would benefit from a change of scenery just like Andrew did. The 2019 MLB first-year player draft was one where two prospects clearly separated themselves from the rest. Oregon State catcher Adley Rutschman and high school shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. were expected to go 1 and 2 to Baltimore and Kansas City, and they did. While he may have been considered a tier below them, the player who ended up going 3rd overall was certainly no slouch. That player was Andrew Vaughn, who during his 3 years at the University of California, Berkeley, was largely considered the best hitter in college baseball. While other aspects of his game left plenty to be desired, Vaughn absolutely raked in the batter's box, slashing .374, .495, .688 with 50 home runs over 160 games. In 2018, his offensive output earned him both the Golden Spikes Award, an honor given by USA Baseball to the most outstanding amateur baseball player in the US, and the Perfect Game Rawlings National Player of the Year. His bat was so impressive that his MLB.com scouting report described him as having no discernible flaws at the plate, and projected him to be a .300 hitter with 30 home runs and 80 walks on an annual basis. The Chicago White Sox decision to take him 3rd overall made a lot of sense, even at the $7.2 million price point it took to sign him, which was a record for the franchise, but an investment they hoped would net them a cornerstone bat for years to come. Vaughn was projected to land in the big leagues by 2021, and he did exactly that, when he broke camp with a White Sox team that featured one of the best starting rotations in all of baseball. The Sox were coming off of a shortened 2020 campaign where they lost to the A's in the wildcard round, but were considered one of the best teams in the American League coming into 2021, with MLB.com, ESPN, and Bleacher Report all slotting them between 5th and 7th in their preseason power rankings. During the 2021 campaign, those predictions played out, as the Southsiders won the AL Central with an impressive 93-69 record, but fell to the eventual AL pennant-winning Astros in the ALDS. In his first year at the show, Vaughn held his own, slashing .235, .309, .396 with 15 home runs, while playing primarily in left field, with Jose Abreu commanding the bulk of the time at first base. Vaughn's rookie numbers didn't jump off the page, as was evidenced by the 0 votes he received for Rookie of the Year, but he did find his way to the big leagues before both of the studs selected before him, and was a positive contributor for a division-winning team. Despite entering 2022 as the projected 4th best team in baseball with an 85.5% chance of making the playoffs according to ESPN, the White Sox as a team took a major step back, playing to an 81-81 record and missing the postseason. But Vaughn took several strides forward, slashing .271, .321, .429, and leading the team in home runs with 17 and RBIs with 76, while playing in more of a utility role, primarily between left and right, but also seeing a bit more action at first. Impressed by Vaughn's performance and trajectory, the team elected to not bring back the then 35-year-old Abreu and made Andrew their full-time first baseman to start the 2023 campaign. Vaughn slashed .258, .314, .429, pretty well on par with what he did in 2022, but set a new career high in home runs with 21, and was one of the few offensive bright spots in what was a very bleak year in Chicago, where the Southsiders finished the season a whopping 40 games below 500 at 61-101. Unfortunately for White Sox fans, that wasn't rock bottom. The team would go a despicable 41-121 in 2024, the worst record in the MLB by an incredible 20 games, and with a negative .306 run differential. Vaughn's offensive numbers remained consistent as he slashed .246, .297, .402 with 19 long balls, but bigger picture was still nowhere near the 330 home run guy he was once projected to be. While expectations remained low for the rebuilding Sox in 2025, being under team control at a reasonable price point slated Vaughn to be one of the better bats in their everyday lineup, until he wasn't. And I mean, he really wasn't. 48 games into the new season, Vaughn was slashing .189, .218, .314 over 193 plate appearances, striking out in a career-high 22.3% of his at-bats, while earning a free pass in a career-low 3.6%. Andrew never had a batting average north of the Mendoza line, and found himself struggling to hit anything, as 41 of his 43 strikeouts were swinging and on such a variety of pitches all over the zone, suggesting that it was a fundamental issue rather than a core weakness being exploited. Despite being 15-35 at the time, and with no clear internal replacement, the the White Sox optioned Vaughn to AAA on May 23rd for what would be his first demotion since his debut in 2021. Vaughn's struggles continued at the minor league level, and a return to the big league seemed distant until two key moments turned his fate. Moment number one came on June 13th, when the White Sox struck a trade with the Brewers, shipping Vaughn to Milwaukee in exchange for a disgruntled Aaron Savale, who wanted out of the Brew Crew after they had moved him into a bullpen role. Moment number two came on July 7th, when Rhys Hoskins landed on the DL, prompting the Brewers to call up Vaughn. Andrew joined a team that was 50-40 at the time and about to host the defending World Series champion, LA Dodgers. Brewers manager Pat Murphy elected to hit Vaughn fifth, and in the bottom of the first inning, that move immediately paid dividends. That 3-run blast off of Yamamoto kicked off both a 5-game hitting streak and a killer July where Vaughn would slash .365, .426, .731 with 5 home runs. His strong overall play would continue as Vaughn finished the year with a .254 batting average, 65 points higher than when he left Chicago. The one piece that eluded him down the stretch was his power, until NLDS Game 2, when Vaughn clubbed another 3-run shot, snapping a 36-game homerless streak. And in the decisive NLDS Game 5, when Vaughn's 383-foot shot to left gave the Brewers the lead for good. Two absolutely massive moments for a guy who found himself optioned to the minors by one of the worst teams in baseball just a handful of months earlier. While Vaughn still has plenty to prove in 2026 and beyond to show that this run wasn't merely a flash-in-the-pan moment for a still underwhelming top prospect, let's take a look at what exactly changed from Chicago to Milwaukee. The biggest difference is that Vaughn stopped swinging at everything, an issue that Pat Murphy addressed in his first conversation upon calling him up when he said, "If you start chasing, you're going back to AAA." With that in mind, Vaughn shifted from being vulnerable to everything to instead having two very clear weaknesses: fastballs up and breaking stuff down. But when pitchers didn't locate those pitches in those spots, he made them pay. 22 of his 68 hits as a Brewer came off the fastball. Another 12 of those hits came off the slider, including 4 of the 9 home runs he hit for Milwaukee in the regular season, a pitch he generally whiffs and Ks against at a high rate in his career. Doing enough damage on both of those weaknesses when they weren't located helped to create a reality where Andrew didn't see them quite as often, with only 8 of his 37 strikeouts as a Brewer coming via the slider. That limiting of a pitcher's arsenal allowed Vaughn, like so many of his Brewers teammates, to put the ball in play more often, an approach that allowed them to finish third in the MLB in both average and hits. The second biggest factor I could identify was the difference in quality of those hitting around him. Of his 57 starts as a Brewer, Vaughn hit 5th in the order 31 times, sandwiched between the dynamic power of Christian Yelich and Rookie of the Year candidate Isaac Collins the most often, followed by Yelich and other Rookie of the Year candidate Caleb Durbin the second most. While in Chicago, Vaughn predominantly hit 4th in the lineup even when scuffling, and was surrounded by players struggling to be productive as well. While analytics within baseball have become so powerful that teams are easily able to game plan for virtually everyone in every situation possible, it's still hard to believe that Vaughn would get as much attention while on a relentless Brewers team that finished with a league best plus 172 run differential versus a White Sox team where even at his worst he was still seen as one of the most capable of doing game-changing damage. The third factor is the one I mentioned off the top of this video, a change of scenery. While it may be hard to quantify, there is an undeniable mental component to all sports. In the case of Andrew Vaughn, you have someone whose collegiate success allowed him to get drafted at a high slot, but also entered him into the White Sox farm system with very high expectations. So much so that even when he had relatively strong years between 2021 and 2024, they were still largely seen as less than what they should be rather than appreciated for what they were. Compound that with the demise that the White Sox as an organization experienced over that same time frame, and you can easily see how that could be a recipe for a difficult mental space. In coming to Milwaukee, the focus shifted to how Andrew could adopt the approach of an already succeeding offense that wasn't looking for him to carry them. How much of a factor that played is something only Vaughn himself would know, but the dramatic shift in his results certainly suggests it may have been prominent. What we do know is that his arrival and contributions helped to take the Brewers to another level, as the team not only won 10 straight upon calling him up as part of a 28-4 stretch through to mid-August, but also ended up finishing with the best record in baseball at 97-65, showing that when a change of scenery really hits, it can be monumental for both the player and team acquiring them. Which leads me to the final piece in this video, 2 other current MLB players that I personally believe could benefit from a change of scenery. The first is the 20th overall pick in the 2018 amateur draft, Trevor Larnach with the Minnesota Twins. While Larnach didn't come nearly as highly touted as Vaughn, he has shown a strong ability to barrel up baseballs and be a tough out at various points in his career when healthy. He finally stayed healthy in 2025, but saw a dramatic dip in a number of his core metrics, which to me suggests he could benefit from a new environment and new voices. Compound that with the fact that the Twins seem to be poised to do a White Sox-esque dip after selling off so many pieces at the deadline, and I'd love to see him given a fresh start somewhere else. My second change of scenery guy is New York Yankees shortstop Anthony Volpe. Taken 30th overall the same year that Vaughn was drafted, Volpe, like everyone else to try before him ever since the captain hung up his spikes in 2014, has had a tough time filling those shoes. And in the case of Volpe, I don't personally think the expectation to do so should have been there in the first place, and probably wouldn't have been had he not shown so much promise and power in the minors. Playing for the Pinstripes can be a blessing and a curse. When things are going right, it provides a thrill second to none. But when things go south, for even a short stint, their passion makes them quick to make you know about it. With several lackluster seasons under his belt, and a fan base that has largely turned on him, I really hope that he's shipped elsewhere this offseason, so we can all see who he actually is when not under Broadway's lights. What are your thoughts on Andrew Vaughn's impressive turnaround in Milwaukee? Do you think he'll carry it forward into 2026? And what other MLB players do you think could benefit from a change in scenery? Let me know via the comments, and be sure to subscribe for even more baseball content.